Hi there. Today we're going to talk about Lesson 64, adding positive and negative signed numbers. Now, there's really two ways to talk about adding signed numbers, or two ways to think about them. There's three real basic rules. First way to think about them is if they're both positive. Positive plus a positive is going to equal a positive. Or, write this down in your notes, when adding two positive numbers, the answer will always be positive. If you're just adding two positives, you're always going to have a positive answer. Or, when you add a negative plus a negative, you're always going to get a negative. When adding two negative numbers, the answer will always be negative. That's pretty straightforward. Add two positives, you get a positive. Add two negatives, you get a negative. Now, the third thing about this whole thing in the basic rules, sorry about that, is when you mix them. Okay, so if you mix a negative and a positive, or a positive plus a negative, okay, if you mix the signs, the sign of the sum will be the sign of the addend, or the number whose absolute value was the greatest. Okay, so if I had two numbers, okay, let's say I have negative 10 and I'm adding 9 to it, okay, opposite signs, this is negative, this is positive. Well, we know if we go 10 to the left and then we come back 9 to the right, that our answer is going to be negative 1. Okay, we know that by number line. But we also know that if we take a negative 10 plus 9, we know that the answer is negative 1. And the reason it's negative 1 is because this 10 was bigger than the 9 to start with. The absolute value of negative 10 is 10. Absolute value of 9 is 9. 10 was bigger, it was negative, so the answer is negative. Okay, here's kind of a little note to add to your notes. The sum of two opposite numbers is going to be 0. So A plus its opposite will be 0, which kind of makes sense. If you go 4 to the right and then you add a negative 4 and you go 4 to the left, you're going to be at 0. That's a pretty straightforward rule. Not too bad. Okay, those were the first three basic rules when you're looking at adding signed numbers. Now, another way to look at signed numbers, of course, is the number line method, which you all have been introduced to before, so this isn't anything strange to you. If I want to add negative 2 and positive 4, I'm going to go from 0 to the left and 4 to the right, which will end up with 2. Or if you look at the expression, you will see a negative 2 plus 4. Okay, 4 is larger, so you know that the answer is going to be positive. And you just take 4 minus 2 because you've got a negative in there. You get 2. Answer will be positive because that 4 is positive. Here's another example. Okay, you got three numbers to deal with here. Okay, you have negative 7 plus 11 plus negative 2. So we start at 0. We go 7 to the left, and then 11 to the right, and then back 2 again. We get an answer of, that's right, 2. Right here. Okay? All right. How would we do these two above here without a number line? Well, I think I kind of explained that, but we're going to just talk a little bit about it. Okay, so we have negative 2 plus 4. They are opposite signs, one negative, one's positive. To compute this, we are actually going to subtract their absolute value. So the absolute value of negative 2 is 2. The absolute value of 4 is 4. 4 minus 2 is 2. Here, right there. The difference is 2, and the sign is going to be positive because the 4 was positive. Its absolute value was positive. So we're set. Okay? Now, I know you guys have done this, and so I know this isn't a big surprise, but you know, every once in a while we have something that's a big surprise to somebody, so we have to take the time to talk about them in 2 or 3 different ways. Okay, what if we have a problem that looks like this? Of course, we have parentheses, those signs of inclusions. So we have to do what's inside the parentheses first. We have an opposite, 2 opposite, number that was negative, this is positive. So we'll do what we talked about on the very last one. We'll just take the absolute value of the 2 numbers, which is 7 and 4, subtract it, which would be 3. Take the sign of the larger number, which is the 7, so it's a negative. And so we end up with 7 minus 4 is 3. The answer will be negative 3 because the 7 in the expression was negative. So if we go on, okay, so we end up with negative 3. We're still working with this same problem that was up here, only this now we have changed into negative 3. So now we have negative 3 plus negative 2. Both of them are negatives. So we don't have to subtract, because if you add a negative plus a negative, you are going to get a negative. So 3 plus 2 is 5, and both of these are negative, so our answer is going to be negative 5. That's not too hard. Okay? I'll give you a minute to write that down. Or of course you can stop the video, whichever works the best for you. Okay, we have some practice problems here. Okay, if we have negative 16 plus 4, we have a negative plus a positive. So we'll take the absolute value of 16 and 4, we'll subtract them, we get 12. The bigger number of the 2 was 16, it was a negative, so the answer is negative 12. Here's another one. We have a positive and a negative, so take the absolute value of 20 and 4, subtract the 2, we get 16. But the answer is going to be a negative 16 because that 20 was negative and it was the bigger one of the 2. Okay? So answer is negative 16. Here we have negative 2 plus negative 9. It's in parentheses, so we have to do that first, and then we'll deal with a 4. So negative 2 plus a negative 9, they're both negatives. So 9 plus 2 is 11. So our answer is going to be a negative 11. And so we rewrite the problem. We have now a negative 11 plus a 4. Opposite signs, one's negative, one's positive. So we'll take the absolute value of both, 11 and 4, subtract it, and we get 7. But that 7 is going to be, yep, negative because the 11 was negative. So the answer is negative 7. Okay? Here is your challenge problem. Do this and bring it up to me, and you'll get some extra credit points for it. Have to show the work. Be sure you're careful about the signs. Notice both of these signs are negative, and they are within parentheses. I hope this was helpful for you. You have an awesome day, and I will talk to you soon.